The cold light of the storage chamber flickered as the machine whirred softly. A single pod sat in the center of the room, dust covering its smooth surface. Inside, a human form was still, untouched by time, or so it seemed. For 15,000 years it had slept, and now, for reasons the world could no longer explain, it was waking. The first breath came slowly. The lungs pulled in air that tasted faintly metallic, thick with the scent of old machinery. Eyes opened, revealing confusion and wonder. The world outside the pod was dim, yet alive in its own strange way. Shadows stretched across the floor, bending strangely under the flickering light. He, or perhaps she, sat up carefully. Muscles, though unused for millennia, obeyed. The mind, however, raced. Memories from a life-long past floated through like fragments of an unfinished dream. Families, cities, laughter, music. All these images came unbidden, filling the pod with echoes that could no longer exist outside. The first steps out of the pod were tentative. Each footfall echoed in the enormous chamber. The silence was oppressive. He called out, testing his voice, but no answer came. Only the hum of machinery responded, steady and indifferent. Stepping through the hallways, he noticed the decay. Dust lay thick on consoles and screens. Lights blinked weakly, powered by what little energy remained. In some places, walls were cracked and wires hung like the roots of strange underground trees. Time, it seemed, had not been kind. Yet the technology, the genius of humans, still endured. He reached the surface and paused. Outside, the world was not as he remembered. Skies were dull, streaked with unusual colors. Buildings, though standing, showed no sign of life. Streets were cracked, empty, and strangely silent. Even the wind, as it brushed over the abandoned city, carried no familiar warmth. Only the faint whispers of the past seemed to linger like ghosts frozen in stone. He walked through the streets carefully. Vehicles, once busy with people, sat abandoned. Shops had doors hanging open, their goods decayed or long gone. Trees and vines had started to claim the city, creeping along walls wrapping around metal and concrete as if the earth itself was reclaiming what humans had once taken. A sudden movement caught his attention. A small creature, unlike anything he had seen before, darted across the street. Its eyes shone with intelligence and its movements were cautious. Animals, it seemed, had survived and adapted. Perhaps life had found a way to continue, even in the absence of humans. The first days were filled with exploration. He learned quickly to navigate the silent city, climbing buildings to see the horizon. Beyond the city limits, forests stretched endlessly. Rivers wound like silver ribbons and mountains rose proudly, untouched by human hands. Nature was both familiar and strange, reshaped over thousands of years. Inside a large museum, he found reminders of humanity's past. Paintings faded but still visible. Books lined shelves, their pages brittle but legible. Holographic displays, though mostly dark, flickered with faint energy when touched. He realized that even in the absence of people, human knowledge had endured. Humanity had left a record of itself, waiting for someone to rediscover it. But the silence weighed heavily. Nights were long, filled with strange sounds from the city, creaks, groans, and occasional whispers of wind through broken windows. He found himself speaking aloud, if only to remind himself that he was still human, still alive. "Where is everyone?" he asked one evening, standing on the rooftop of a crumbling building. No answer came, only the stars blinking coldly above. He began searching for clues. Libraries, research centers, even abandoned homes became places of investigation. Some data suggested that humans had faced a great challenge, one that forced them to leave or hide. Other records were fragmented, as if someone had tried to erase the memory of what had happened. Every discovery deepened the mystery but also inspired awe at the accomplishments of a species that had once thrived. Food and water were scarce but manageable. Nature had provided, though in strange ways. Wild fruits and plants, evolved or mutated over thousands of years, sustained him. Streams, though filled with sediment, offered clean water in some areas. He learned to move carefully, avoiding areas where the structures were unstable or the wildlife more cautious. One day he discovered something remarkable: a garden, overgrown but unmistakably human in design. Paths, fountains, and sculptures, though weathered, stood as a testament to creativity and care. Here he felt the presence of humanity most strongly. He could imagine the gardeners who had tended this place, Children who had played here, people who had lived and laughed. It was a painful joy, a connection to a past long gone. As he explored further, he found signs of other intelligence, strange symbols etched into stone, structures that seemed deliberate but unlike anything humans had built, hinted that life had continued in unexpected ways. Were these the work of animals, or had new intelligent beings arisen in human absence? The thought excited him but also filled him with caution. The world was no longer fully human, and he was, for the first time, a stranger in his own home. Sleep became an odd luxury. The mind, though curious and determined, still craved rest. Nights were spent in the ruins, the stars above a constant reminder of how small one life could feel against the vastness of time. Yet even in solitude he felt purpose. He had awoken not just for survival, but to bear witness to a world that had moved on without humans, to understand, to learn, and perhaps to keep the memory of humanity alive. And then, one evening, as he stood atop a high tower watching the sun sink below a mountain range, he saw a movement in the distance. Something was coming, something that did not belong to the past yet was very real. His heart raced. For the first time he realized that awakening was not the end of his story. It was only the beginning. The silence of 15,000 years had been broken, but the world had not yet revealed all its secrets. He had awakened to a planet alive with mystery, challenge, and the echoes of a civilization that once was. Humanity might have disappeared, but the spark of curiosity, courage, and hope remained, inside him, and perhaps in the world itself. With determination, he took his first steps toward the horizon. Whatever lay ahead, he would face it, for he was human, and that was enough to start again. The days passed slowly, yet each one was filled with discovery. The world was silent yet alive in its own way. Birds that had once relied on humans now built nests in skyscrapers. Strange creatures, quick and clever, darted through empty streets. Nature had learned to thrive without human guidance. The protagonist, still learning to navigate this changed world, had begun to map the city. Streets that had once seemed familiar were now overgrown and twisted. Buildings leaned at odd angles and bridges had collapsed in places. Yet some structures were surprisingly intact, as if preserved by the earth itself. It was a city frozen in time, a monument to what humans had once achieved. Exploration became a necessity, not just for curiosity, but for survival. He searched for food, finding plants that had grown wild in abandoned gardens. Fruits were sweet but strange in shape, their colors bright and unusual. Streams provided water, though he had to be careful to avoid contamination. Every step required caution, yet also offered insight. The earth had changed, but life continued. Inside an abandoned school, he discovered books and records that fascinated him. Children's stories were still readable, their illustrations faded but recognizable. History books told the tale of humans' achievements, their triumphs and failures. Scientific texts revealed knowledge that was still relevant, even after thousands of years. It was proof that humanity had once been brilliant, capable of great creativity and understanding. He began to feel a connection to the past. Though no humans remained, their presence lingered in the objects they had left behind. Tools, vehicles, and machines all demonstrated skill and intelligence. He could imagine the people who had used them, their voices, laughter, and determination. It was a reminder that humanity had mattered, that their lives had left a mark on the world. One day, while exploring a research facility, he discovered something remarkable, a lab that still contained working machines. Most of the power systems had failed, but some devices hummed with energy. He realized that humans had built redundancies, planning for long-term survival in ways he had never imagined. Even after thousands of years, the legacy of knowledge persisted. While examining the lab, he stumbled upon data recordings. They were fragmented but contained hints of humanity's fate. There were messages of warning, pleas to future generations, and plans for survival beyond Earth. It became clear that humans had not vanished by accident. Something had forced them to leave or to hide. The details were incomplete, but the evidence was enough to ignite his curiosity. Traveling beyond the city, he entered forests that had grown unchecked for centuries. Trees towered like giants, their roots twisting over the ground. Rivers cut through the landscape, carving canyons and valleys. Wildlife was abundant, though different from the creatures he remembered. Predators and prey had adapted to a new balance, living without human interference. In these forests, he found signs of intelligence. Strange structures, built from natural materials yet arranged in deliberate patterns, hinted that some species had developed beyond simple survival. It was not human intelligence, but cleverness nonetheless. He studied them carefully, fascinated by how life could adapt to challenges in creative ways. Despite the beauty and wonder, loneliness weighed heavily. The nights were long, and the wind through empty buildings whispered memories he could not reach. He often spoke aloud, calling out to the absent humans, testing if any answer would come. But the silence was absolute. Only the echoes of his own voice responded, bouncing off broken walls and empty streets. One evening, as he rested atop a hill overlooking the city, he noticed a faint light in the distance. It flickered like a signal, small but unmistakable. His heart raced. Could it be another human? Or something else entirely? He debated whether to investigate immediately or wait, cautious of potential danger. The curiosity that had driven humans for millennia surged within him, demanding that he act. He decided to follow the light. The journey took him through dense forests and across rivers that had no bridges. He moved carefully, avoiding unstable ground and unfamiliar creatures. Every sound was magnified in the quiet world. Every movement felt significant. Finally, he reached the source, a tall structure partly hidden by trees and vines. It was unlike anything he had seen. Built with precision, it combined human design with elements that seemed foreign. Symbols decorated its walls, carved with care. A faint hum came from within, hinting at energy still alive in the building. He stepped closer, feeling a mixture of awe and apprehension. Whoever or whatever had built this place was remarkable. Inside, he discovered more than he expected. Machines, screens, and devices pulsed softly, powered by energy he could not fully understand. It was a place of study, observation, and perhaps creation. In one corner, a recording played automatically. A holographic figure appeared, speaking in a voice that was at once familiar and strange. It spoke of humans leaving Earth, of challenges that could not be overcome here, and of a hope that knowledge would remain behind. The message inspired him. Humans had left, but they had thought ahead. They had left clues, instructions, and warnings. He realized that he was now the custodian of their legacy, the one to carry their story forward. Even alone, he had a purpose: to explore, to learn, and to understand what had happened. As days turned into weeks, he established a routine. He explored, studied, and documented everything he found. He cataloged plants, animals, and structures, building a mental map of a world that had moved on. He repaired what he could using tools and machines left behind. Slowly, he began to feel that he was not just surviving, he was thriving in a new way, connected to both the past and the living world around him. And yet, mysteries remained. The symbols on the strange structures suggested an intelligence he did not understand. The recordings hinted at events he could not fully grasp. Something beyond the city called to him, a signal or presence that demanded investigation. He could feel that humanity's story was not yet complete, that the world held secrets he was meant to uncover. One night, as he gazed at the stars, he understood something profound. Humanity might be gone, but the spirit of curiosity, ingenuity, and courage had not vanished. It lived on in him, in the structures they had built, and in the world itself. The planet had changed, yet the legacy of humans remained, hidden in plain sight, waiting for discovery. He resolved to continue. Whatever lay beyond the city, beyond the forests and rivers, he would find it. He would seek the truth about humanity's disappearance, study the new life that had grown in their absence, and ensure that the story of his species endured. The light in the distance pulsed again, faint but steady. It was a call, a challenge, and a promise all at once. He knew that following it would change everything. With a deep breath, he began his journey toward the unknown, leaving behind the familiar streets and venturing into a world that was both strange and beautiful. The silence of 15,000 years had been broken, but the adventure had only just begun. The Earth had survived without humans, yet the human spirit, curious, brave, and resilient, was awake once more. He stepped forward, ready to face whatever lay ahead, carrying the memory and legacy of a species that had once filled the planet with life and light. The signal glowed faintly on the horizon, a pulsing light that beckoned him forward. The protagonist paused at the edge of a cliff, looking down at the valley below. Trees swayed in the evening breeze. Rivers sparkled under the fading sun, and the city behind him seemed distant, a relic of a world that no longer existed. Yet the signal was alive, and curiosity, stronger than fear, urged him onward. He descended carefully, navigating uneven terrain and fallen trees. Every step was deliberate. The land had changed in 15,000 years. Hills had shifted, streams had carved new paths, and animals now roamed freely where humans had once walked. Small creatures peeked from the undergrowth, observing him with intelligence and caution. They were not afraid, but they were curious, just as he was of them. After hours of careful travel, he reached the source, a massive structure rising from the earth like a monolith. It was made of materials he recognized, yet twisted into shapes unfamiliar. Metal and stone combined seamlessly, as if grown rather than built. Strange symbols covered the walls, etched deeply and precisely. Some pulsed faintly with energy, hinting at technology that had survived millennia. He stepped closer, feeling a mixture of awe and apprehension. Whoever or whatever had created this place was intelligent, far beyond what he had imagined. The air hummed softly, and the faint glow from the symbols illuminated the ground around him. He ran his hand across the surface of the wall, feeling warmth and vibration. This structure was alive in some way, and it seemed to acknowledge his presence. Inside, the place was even more astonishing. The walls glowed with light, not harsh or blinding, but steady and calming. Machines lined the corridors, some dormant, others alive with faint hums. Screens flickered with images and data, still functional after thousands of years. He moved slowly, examining everything, careful not to disturb the delicate balance of the place. A central chamber drew him in. There, a large console projected a holographic display. A figure appeared, a human yet different. It spoke in a calm, recorded voice. "If you are seeing this message, you are the last of your kind," the hologram said. "Humanity has moved beyond this world. What remains is knowledge, observation, and guidance for those who awaken after us." He listened intently. The message continued, explaining that humans had foreseen a crisis, one that could not be survived on Earth alone. Some humans had left the planet, venturing to distant worlds. Others had remained, their fates uncertain. What mattered, the message said, was that knowledge, culture, and understanding must continue. He realized then that he had become the guardian of humanity's legacy. The protagonist explored the chamber further. Files, recordings, and interactive displays revealed fragments of human history, culture, and science. He learned of achievements in engineering, medicine, space travel, and art. Even after millennia, humans had left behind a record of their brilliance, a proof of what they had accomplished. He felt pride and sorrow simultaneously. Pride for what humanity had achieved, sorrow that no one remained to share it with him. Suddenly, a new signal appeared on one of the displays, a map of the solar system with markers far beyond Earth. The hologram explained that these were locations where humans had settled or hidden knowledge. It was a puzzle, a trail for anyone who might awaken in the distant future. The protagonist's heart raced. This was more than exploration. It was a mission, a journey to reconnect with the remnants of his species. The thought filled him with determination. He began studying the machines in the chamber, learning how they worked. Some could communicate across vast distances, though energy sources were limited. Others could scan the planet, showing areas of interest where life had adapted in unusual ways. It became clear that Earth itself had become a laboratory, a place of observation, and he was now the scientist, explorer, and historian combined. Days passed quickly in this chamber. He documented everything meticulously, making notes and sketches. Every discovery was a treasure, a plant species previously unknown, a structure built by animals displaying intelligence, or a piece of human technology still functioning perfectly. The world outside the chamber seemed alive with secrets waiting to be uncovered. One afternoon, while exploring the surrounding area, he found a clearing filled with structures unlike anything he had seen before. They were smaller than the main monolith but shared the same design language. Metal and stone fused, symbols etched across their surfaces. Inside, devices and screens flickered weakly. He realized that this place was part of a network, a system designed to record, observe, and preserve knowledge across the planet. The protagonist spent hours studying the network. Patterns emerged, revealing not only information about humans but also about the evolution of life on Earth. Some creatures had developed problem-solving skills far beyond expectations. Small communities of intelligent species had adapted social structures, tools, and communication methods. Earth had continued even without humans, evolving in ways that were both strange and beautiful. He felt a deep respect for life itself. Humanity had once dominated the planet, yet it had been nature, time, and evolution that carried the story forward. Life had survived because it adapted, because it persevered, because it found balance in the absence of its former masters. This realization strengthened his resolve. He was human, and he would ensure that both humanity's story and the story of Earth's life would endure. That night, as he camped near one of the smaller structures, he saw lights in the sky, faint moving patterns that suggested intelligence. They were not stars, not satellites, but something deliberate. Perhaps other beings were observing, or perhaps it was a message left by humans in the past. His curiosity surged. The universe was far larger than he had imagined, and Earth was just one small piece of a vast puzzle. Sleep came fitfully. His mind was restless, filled with questions about the past and the future. Dreams were vivid, fragments of human life interwoven with visions of distant worlds. He awoke with a renewed sense of purpose. Each day brought new discoveries, new puzzles, and new responsibilities. The silence of Earth was not emptiness, it was a canvas waiting for him to paint the next chapter. In the following days, he began venturing further from the monolith. Rivers, mountains, and forests held secrets he had not yet uncovered. Strange ruins suggested civilizations that might have risen after humanity's disappearance, or perhaps remnants of human experiments with biology and technology. Every finding reminded him that he was part of a larger story, one that spanned millennia and galaxies. On a high plateau overlooking a valley, he discovered a monument, weathered but intact. Symbols etched into stone hinted at knowledge far older than humans. Was this created by humans or by other intelligent life? The question thrilled and frightened him at once. His journey was no longer about survival. It was about understanding, connecting, and discovering the truth of a world that had changed beyond recognition. By the end of the third week, he realized something important. The Earth he had woken to was alive in ways he could never have imagined. It was not simply a place of ruins and memories. It was a living, breathing planet filled with intelligence, curiosity, and resilience. Humanity had left, but the spark of life, creativity, and exploration remained. And now he carried that spark forward. One morning, as dawn broke over a distant mountain range, he spotted movement on the horizon, a large figure approaching, deliberate and cautious. His heart pounded. Could it be another human? Or something else entirely? Whatever it was, he knew that the world was no longer just his to explore alone. The story of humanity, life, and the planet was expanding, and he would be part of it. The signal that had drawn him here pulsed faintly, as if in approval. The journey was far from over. New challenges, mysteries, and revelations awaited. The protagonist took a deep breath, feeling a strange sense of connection. To the humans who had come before, to the life that had evolved without them, and to the vast, unknown universe beyond. He stepped forward, ready to face whatever lay ahead, determined to carry the legacy of humanity, and to uncover the secrets of a world that had survived 15,000 years of silence. The figure in the distance moved with purpose. The protagonist's heart raced as he descended the slope to meet it. As he approached, the form became clearer. It was not human, but it stood upright and seemed intelligent. Its eyes glowed faintly, reflecting curiosity rather than hostility. It made a soft sound, almost like a greeting. He hesitated, unsure if this being was friend or foe. After a moment, he spoke aloud, his voice steady. "I mean no harm. I am the last of humanity, and I seek only knowledge." The creature tilted its head, then stepped forward as if considering his words. Slowly, it raised a hand in a gesture of acknowledgement. The protagonist realized that intelligence did not belong to humans alone. This being had survived and evolved in the long years since humanity's disappearance. Its body was lean and strong, adapted to the environment with patterns across its skin that seemed both decorative and functional. It observed him closely, taking in his gestures, expressions, and voice. Over the next hours, a cautious communication developed. The protagonist learned to understand simple signals and sounds the creature used. Though language as he knew it was absent, meaning could still be shared. He discovered that the creature had knowledge of the land, of resources, and of other beings that had survived and adapted. This new intelligence was part of the story of life on Earth, just as humans had once been. Together, they explored the area around the mysterious monolith and the smaller structures. The creature led him to hidden rooms, tunnels, and chambers filled with technology and records. Some devices were clearly human, others were unknown. It became evident that humans had left much behind, but life had continued to innovate, to build, and to grow in their absence. The protagonist marveled at the combination of human and natural evolution. Devices that humans had created were now integrated with organic systems developed by other life forms. The planet had become a laboratory of intelligence, innovation, and adaptation. It was proof that life in all forms could endure and thrive. Yet the more he discovered, the more questions arose. Why had humanity left? Where had they gone? The recordings suggested distant worlds, but the details were vague. The creatures around him, intelligent, cautious, and observant, had evolved without humans but seemed to be aware of their absence. Was it memory, instinct? Or had humans influenced their development in ways the protagonist could not yet understand? Days turned into weeks as he studied the structures and learned from his new companion. They moved through forests where trees had grown to unimaginable heights, rivers that sparkled with strange minerals, and plains filled with creatures that displayed remarkable intelligence. Every step revealed a balance that had emerged without human interference, a world that had learned to maintain itself. In one of the largest structures, they discovered a chamber filled with archives. Holographic projections displayed maps, timelines, and records of human activity. They also contained messages from humans who had left Earth, detailing plans for distant settlements and warnings for the future. The protagonist realized that humanity had planned far ahead, leaving knowledge behind to guide anyone who might awaken in the distant future. The creature observed him closely as he studied the archives. Though it could not speak in human language, its actions suggested understanding. It gestured toward the maps, pointed to areas on the planet, and made sounds that seemed to convey curiosity and attention. Through patience and careful observation, the protagonist began to understand. Intelligence, he realized, transcended language, species, and even time. One day, while exploring a river valley, they discovered remnants of a city that predated the human disappearance. Structures half buried in the earth, machinery fused with stone and vegetation, hinted at experiments or civilizations that had existed long before humans vanished. The protagonist examined the artifacts, careful not to disturb them, realizing that the history of the planet was far richer than he had imagined. As he pieced together clues, he began to understand a pattern. Earth had always been a world of adaptation and survival. Humans had played a part, but life itself was resilient, capable of growth and change even without human guidance. The realization filled him with awe and humility. Humanity was important, but it was part of a larger story, one that continued even in its absence. The nights were filled with reflection. Stars stretched across the sky, countless and bright. He thought of humans who had ventured to distant worlds, leaving Earth behind. He wondered if they had survived, if they remembered the planet, and if they had left messages yet undiscovered. The universe seemed vast, mysterious, and full of possibilities. Then, one evening, a new signal appeared, different from the monolith, more deliberate and patterned. It pulsed in a rhythm that suggested intelligence, perhaps a message. The protagonist's companion watched the sky as he deciphered the pattern. Slowly, the meaning became clear. It was a guide, a direction pointing to another location farther away, where more answers might be found. Excitement surged. The journey was no longer just about survival or discovery. It was about connection. Humanity's story, the evolution of life on Earth, and the mysteries of the universe were intertwined. He understood that following the signal could reveal the fate of humans, the origins of new intelligence, or knowledge that had been hidden for thousands of years. Preparation became essential. He gathered supplies from abandoned human structures, repaired machines that could assist in travel, and studied the terrain to chart a safe course. His companion helped, leading him to areas rich in resources and free from danger. Together, they formed a partnership based on trust, curiosity, and mutual respect. The first leg of their journey took them through dense forests and over rivers, where they encountered creatures that were cautious but not hostile. Observing them, The protagonist noted their intelligence, their problem-solving abilities, and their adaptation to the post-human world. Life on Earth had learned to survive without humans, yet it retained a remarkable capacity for learning, creativity, and resilience. As they climbed a mountain ridge, the protagonist paused to look back. The landscape stretched endlessly: forests, rivers, plains, and the distant city, now tiny and silent. He realized that the planet was alive in ways he had never imagined, that the story of life continued beyond the humans who had created it. The monoliths, structures, and archives were reminders of the past. But the present teemed with innovation, intelligence, and possibility. Finally, they reached the destination indicated by the signal, a plateau overlooking a valley filled with structures both natural and artificial. The protagonist marveled at the sight. It was clear that this place had been designed to store knowledge, observe life, and perhaps communicate across vast distances. The technology was complex, integrated with the environment, and still functional. Inside the central chamber, they discovered records of humans who had once attempted to contact other worlds. Devices that could scan distant planets, project signals across space, and store vast amounts of data remained operational. The protagonist realized the scope of what humans had built. They had left Earth, yet ensured that the story of their species, their knowledge, and their curiosity would endure. That night, as the stars glittered above, the protagonist felt a deep sense of purpose. Humanity might have disappeared from the planet, but its legacy was alive in him, in the structures and in the life that had adapted to thrive in its absence. The journey ahead promised answers, challenges, and discoveries that would shape the future of Earth and perhaps the universe itself. The companion beside him watched the sky silently, a reminder that intelligence existed in many forms. Together, they would explore, learn, and uncover the mysteries left behind by humans and the forces that had shaped life for millennia. The silence of Earth had been broken, but the story of life, discovery, and hope was just beginning. The plateau stretched endlessly before him, bathed in the soft glow of dawn. The structures below hummed faintly, alive with energy he could feel but barely understand. His companion, the intelligent being that had guided him, stood silently beside him. Together they had traveled far, uncovering secrets left behind by humans and the mysteries of a world that had evolved without them. The signal that had guided him this far pulsed once more, brighter than ever. It pointed toward a larger structure at the center of the valley, its size and design unlike anything he had seen. It was a final destination, a place where answers awaited. Heart racing, he descended toward it, careful with every step, aware that the journey of discovery had reached a critical point. Inside the massive structure, the air was cool and still. Walls of polished stone and metal reflected the faint light from the ceiling. Holographic projections lit up as he entered, displaying maps of planets, stars, and galaxies. Among them were records of humanity's last days on Earth, their plans for survival, and messages to any future beings who might awaken. He activated a central console, and a holographic figure appeared, a human, serene and wise. "If you are seeing this," the figure began, "you are the inheritor of our knowledge, the witness to our legacy. Humanity faced challenges it could not overcome on Earth. We left, not because we failed, but because we chose to survive in new ways." The protagonist listened carefully. The figure spoke of distant worlds, colonies humans had established, and civilizations humans had tried to preserve. It revealed that humans had not vanished entirely. They had adapted, migrated, and sought to continue life elsewhere. But the Earth had been left in capable hands, life itself. Plants, animals, and new forms of intelligence had been allowed to grow, evolve, and thrive without interference. He realized the truth. Humanity had survived, but in a different form, in other places, and through the legacy of knowledge and technology they had left behind. The Earth, once their home, was now a laboratory of evolution, a testament to life's resilience and adaptability. The protagonist felt a profound connection to both the humans who had come before and the life that had continued without them. The companion beside him moved closer, its glowing eyes reflecting understanding. Together they explored the records, finding instructions for machines and devices that could restore communication, monitor life, and preserve knowledge. Humans had thought ahead, leaving tools for those who might awaken in the distant future. Now he realized it was his responsibility to continue their work. Outside the structure, the valley stretched like a living map. Rivers sparkled, forests swayed, and animals moved with grace and intelligence. Creatures he had not seen before approached cautiously, curious about the new presence in their world. Life had continued, adapted, and thrived. It was proof that survival did not rely solely on humans. Intelligence and care could emerge in many forms. The protagonist spent days studying, documenting, and experimenting. He repaired some of the devices, restoring power to sections of the structure. Holographic records displayed human art, science, music, and history, teaching him lessons not only about the past but also about creativity, problem-solving, and the power of curiosity. Humanity had left a guide, and he was determined to follow it faithfully. As weeks passed, he began to connect the networks of structures across the valley. Paths, tunnels, and corridors revealed themselves as part of a system designed to observe, preserve, and communicate. Life on Earth was interconnected in ways humans had once imagined, but never fully realized. He marveled at the intelligence that had developed naturally, blending with the remnants of human technology to create a unique, thriving ecosystem. One day, as he explored the outer edge of the plateau, a new signal appeared in the sky. Unlike previous signals, it was moving, deliberate, and rhythmic. It was not a projection from the structures, this was something from outside. Perhaps it was a message from humans or another intelligent species reaching out. His heart pounded. The universe, he realized, was not silent. Humanity's story was part of a much larger story yet to unfold. The companion stood beside him, alert, its movements synchronized with his own. Together they watched as the signal descended, landing in a nearby valley. Approaching carefully, the protagonist discovered a craft, sleek, advanced, and unmistakably human in design. Lights pulsed along its surface and a hatch opened slowly. Inside, he found records and devices that confirmed what the holographic figure had said. Humans had survived, exploring the stars, carrying Earth's legacy with them. A message played automatically. To the last witness on Earth, it said, "We have journeyed far, but our memory remains with you. The world is alive, resilient, and full of wonder. We entrust you with its care, its history, and its future. Learn, observe, and ensure that life continues." The protagonist felt a surge of purpose and pride. He was no longer simply a survivor. He was a guardian, a witness, and a historian. Humanity had left, yet its spirit lived on in him and in the world around him. Every tree, river, creature, and structure was a testament to life's resilience. Every machine, record, and message was proof of human ingenuity and foresight. With renewed determination, he began organizing the valley. Devices were repaired, knowledge was cataloged, and plans were made to explore further. His companion helped guide him, learning from his methods and sharing insights about the natural world. Together they formed a partnership that bridged species, intelligence, and time. The days were filled with discovery. He documented new species, studied the evolution of life, and experimented with human machines. He sent signals into space, testing communication networks and tracing other locations where humans had left traces of their presence. Each day brought new lessons, new mysteries, and new opportunities to connect past and present. And yet he never forgot the lesson that life had taught him. Survival was not just about strength or knowledge. It was about curiosity, adaptability, and care. Humans had left Earth, but they had ensured that life here would continue to evolve, thrive, and learn. The planet was a living archive, a testament to resilience, and he was now its steward. As the sun set on the plateau, painting the sky in shades of gold and violet, he stood with his companion and gazed over the valley. Life moved below them, animals hunting, birds flying, plants swaying in the wind. The monoliths glowed faintly in the distance, their energy harmonizing with the rhythms of the planet. Earth, he realized, was alive in a way he had never understood before awakening. A soft breeze carried the scent of flowers, earth, and water. He breathed deeply, feeling connected to everything, the humans who had come before, the life that had adapted without them, and the universe that awaited beyond the stars. His journey had begun in solitude, but it had led him to understanding, purpose, and hope. The signal in the sky pulsed once more, faint but steady. It was a reminder that exploration never ends, that life and intelligence are boundless, and that the story of humanity, though interrupted, Continues. He smiled, knowing that he was not alone. He was part of something greater. Earth, life, and the legacy of a species that had dared to dream, create, and explore. With courage, curiosity, and determination, he stepped forward. The journey would continue, the mysteries would unfold, and life would endure. Humanity's spirit, resilient and bright, lived on, not only in distant stars but in him, in Earth, and in the future yet to be written. The silence of 15,000 years had been broken. A new chapter had begun, one of discovery, stewardship, and hope. And as the stars shimmered overhead, he knew that the story of humanity, and the planet it had once called home, was far from over.